What is up, sister friends? Welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart with Coach Emily. And today we have a very special guest, someone who is near and dear to my heart, Bree. Bree Guzman, what's your name going to be?
Uh, Brianna or Bree Galm,
Galm.
Galm. It's a little
Galm.
bit of a different name. I don't hear it quite often, so yeah.
Soon to be Mrs. Galm. Bree has been a client of mine for about 6 months now, coming up 6 months, but has also been in my life for the last couple of years. And it's just been a beautiful journey to see her grow and shift and change and evolve into the woman she is today. So I'm excited to have her on the podcast. I'm super excited for you guys to hear from her. So Bree, on the podcast, I don't really like to give introductions for people because you know you best. So I want you to give your introduction. So go ahead and let the world know a little bit about just a little intro about who you are.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, but I'm Bree or Brianna. But I am a self-proclaimed chef, interior designer, fashionista, recipe book creator, sober coach. Yeah, I'm a lot of things. I do a lot of things. So when anybody ever asks me, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I do a lot of things." But I'm a multi-passionate human, so I am a manifesting generator, and that just comes very natural to me. And to be quite frank, I was frustrated and sometimes do get frustrated with my multi-passionate self, but I'm starting to embrace it and kind of take it more on as a gift instead of a curse. But yeah, I am truly just I'm somebody who really does want to leave an impact here in the world. And so through my journey, I have come to realize that I really want to help other women really like ignite that fire that they feel like maybe is burning inside of them, but they don't really know how to like unleash it to the world. And so, like I said, through my journey, I've figured this out about myself. And so I am on a mission to help other women really ignite that fire, that magic, that power that they have within them that they're scared to kind of like talk about. They're scared to unleash to the world. And yeah, that's me.
Love it. I love it so much. Because I think that there are so many women like yourself, Bree. I've known more manifesting generators than I know any other energy type, but there's so many women like you that not to pigeonhole you into a manifesting generator, but just so many women who have so many passions or so many ideas that they want to dive into and they're so scared. And I can totally resonate with like you wanting women to unleash that power. Cause I always say like, we're destined for more. And I just want you to master the levels of efficiency. So that's projector in me. Like I want you to make your life more efficient so you can go do what you need to do, right? And Bree's kind of that I'm the earth, Bree's the fire kind of thing, right? And so I think that you have a beautiful gift of seeing your passions and diving into them. So when did you first realize that you loved all kinds of different things? Like when did the multi passions kind of emerge in your life?
So I think from a really young age, I've always just been a creative soul. My room, like back at home, I like painted a tree in the corner with some of my friends. It was just like a color bomb, like grew up in my room. And so I've always been really creative. I've always been like into like, I was part of I was like the class vice president. I was also in the choir. I was also in yearbook. I also played sports. So I just did a lot of things from a really young age. And I never really thought much of it until I started to get older and I went through college and I was like, why is it so hard for me to pick one thing in school, like one major? I hopped from like wanting to be a marine biologist to then like being like, oh, I want to do teaching. And then I went back for my master's in public health. And so I've always just been really interested in so many different avenues. And like I said, for a really long time, and I think a lot of people can resonate, it's overwhelming, right? Like it's frustrating. Sometimes I would say, like, God, please come down from the heavens and like stand before me and tell me like what my one thing that I'm supposed to do here on earth is. Like, what is the one thing so that I can follow that lead and then I don't have to like have all like put my blinders on, follow that one lead and not like do all these other things. And so like I said, I slowly have started to realize that that is just not how I run as a human being, right? Like that is not the way I'm supposed to run. I'm supposed to run by having all these avenues and like this multifaceted life and having so many different passions. And through each of these passions, right, I can then, it can all come together as one.
Right.
For a long time, I was like, oh, it's going to be like, I have a hat business and that's separate from this one, and then this one and this one. And like now I'm realizing that I actually can put them all together and help other women who maybe are multi-passionate that don't really know how to move with that in a way that's positive because they feel overwhelmed by themselves or their thoughts or how they are as people. And so, yeah, but I think it's really just been my entire life that I didn't really know it at first, and it was overwhelming and frustrating. And the older I've gotten, I've really started to realize like this is just who I am as a person, and it's a gift of mine.
It is a gift. It's a true gift. And I know you've kind of expressed it to me in our sessions, but I think it's really important because I know a lot of people can resonate with that pain point. Maybe, like you said, like, God, give me the one purpose, right? And as manifesting generators, guys, you're literally here to basically like slap at the status quo. Like, life isn't linear, life is messy. Like, you're here to kind of like show people that there doesn't have to be one way to live life. And you have like manifesting generators master multiple skills. They get what they need from that thing and they move on, right? And so that's how Bree kind of becomes this like almost like, yeah, I know how to do that. Yeah, I can do that. And I know how these all link together and I can show you that too. But, if you haven't gotten to a place where you embrace that, the pain point, a lot of women who are manifesting generators or just in general, like the passion, even myself with the passions I have, you feel like you have to put yourself in a box of one thing. And so can you speak to that pain point I know you have experienced in your own life?
Yeah, so when this is a great question because when I first started coaching online, right? When I started presenting myself as somebody who wanted to help other women, I put myself in a box of like, I want to do body image coaching. So I want to help other women overcome their struggles with their body image so that they can live like a very confident, embodied life. And so I was so adamant about like, I am just a body image coach. Like, I don't want to do fitness. I don't want to do like, of course, there's a nutrition piece and a fitness piece in there, but I don't want to like coach on that. I want to just do the body image piece. Then I've through evolving and me just growing as a human, I then stepped into like the nutrition aspect and I was like, I'm only going to do nutrition. And then I was like, well, actually, I only want to do fitness. And then I'm like, wait, I'm like moving through this sober time of my life. I want to help other women with their sobriety journey. And so each and every time I moved through these new avenues, I put myself in a box of like, I'm only going to do this one thing. But then there was like an array of other things that kind of were happening behind the scenes. And I was like, hey, that kind of like, that fits here. But how do I do it all? And I would get really frustrated again, like this word frustration keeps coming up, but I would get really frustrated because I'm like, you know, I don't want to confuse people with what I do, or it's too many things to do this many things all at the same time. I'm going to overwhelm myself. And I need to pick one thing because society teaches us you go to school, you do that job for the rest of your life, and then you retire and you're done. And that's like, give lots of claps to these people. But as manifesting generators, I can sit here and say that I never fit into that box of like going to college, graduating, and doing that thing for the rest of my life. And it would frustrate me so bad. Um, but going back to this like these things that I kind of focused on in my coaching world, I have realized recently that I can use all of these, all of these avenues, the sobriety piece, the body image piece, the confidence piece. If you struggle with boundaries, I ultimately, help women with whatever it is that is going on behind closed doors, but they just feel right. Like they feel like there's something missing, or like, I look around and I love my home and I love my husband and everything's great, but there's this piece inside of you that you feel like, what is that little piece that's missing? Like there's a hole inside of me and it's like kind of burning a little bit, but I don't really know what's going on. And you kind of look around and you're like, I really am happy and everything's good, but something is still missing. And it's, you know, if you're out there and you hear me talking, you know what I'm talking about. That like missing piece of impact of, you know, whether that be confidence or whatever it is, but it's like this missing piece inside of you that just won't go away. And every night when you close your eyes, you're like, why do I still feel like this? And so for a lot of us, right, it's like stay quiet, like dim your light, just follow the crowd. And it's like, no, you know, you only have one life. And ultimately, that magic, that power that you're dimming or you're pushing down could be your quote unquote purpose, right? Or could be an avenue that you are supposed to take right now to create that impact maybe you feel like you aren't creating. But yeah.
What was the missing piece for you?
I think it was this piece of me just the constant piece of like me trying to fit in a box and me trying to stay quiet. And then when I decided to unleash like my power out into the world of like me just being this being and not really caring what other people think about me and speaking my truth and being this multi-passionate human and ultimately helping other women, right, create the impact that they want to leave truly has filled up my cup. And I think it's something that I will forever do, whether that be in the online coaching space or in another space. It'll just be something that I forever do because I truly feel as though my journey, a lot of people are on the
Right.
part of that beginning part that and I don't want people to stay there. Like I want people to get to this point where they're like, wow, you know, I'm glad I spoke up. I'm glad I didn't put up, you know, like keep trying to put the fire down. I'm glad that I did this thing that was maybe delusional, right? Like delulu. That's like a new word, but people think like my vision or my, you know, my dreams, they're delusional. Like that's not going to happen, but it's like no, like those are things that very well could happen like sooner than you think. And so, yeah.
I love it. You're getting me all excited. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. So it's so cool because knowing you, Bree, just like, okay, if I just think back when I first met you and you would like set up your laptop in your like laundry room or something, and like we would have our sessions and you were just like terrified. Like, you know, she was, guys, she was so scared, so worried, so like, is this going to work? Am I crazy? You know, kind of like we all do. I know I've done it. I'm doing it right now. Like I'm creating a new trying to put together a new program for next year. And I'm doing it, you know, we all do it, right? Like, will people like this? Am I insane? Is this dumb? Would someone actually pay for this? Like, you know, you say all the things to having Bree right now just fully accepting all the parts of herself. Because if you guys don't follow Bree on Instagram, I'm going to put her Instagram link on the show notes. But Bree is color and fun and funky and cool, and like her outfits to the hats. Like when I found out you made those hats, I was like, you make hats? Like you do this? Like you do this? And it's just like an ever flowing excitement and like just life. You're just like full of life. And to have you instead of shove it down because it wasn't what the world said is acceptable, to letting it flow out naturally is beautiful. And that's why one of the reasons why I wanted you on the episode today, because this is very inspiring. It's very like exciting, because it just goes back to like, there's nothing you can't do. And there literally are no rules.
Absolutely. I love that. And I agree with you. It's been a crazy year and a half, 2 years of like my transformation from just like really trying to stay quiet and dim my light. And I didn't want other people to think that I was this or that. And I was, you know, people pleasing tendencies and the boundaries. And it's just been a really cool journey. And I think I need to give, for many of us, right? Like we give ourselves the least amount of credit. But like I'm really slowly starting to see just how much I've grown in such a short amount of time. And it's really crazy when you like unlock this thing that's been kind of like balled up inside you for so long and you start to like speak about it and you're passionate about it, it's like, okay, I'm never going to shut up about this. Like, I'm just going to keep talking about it.
I get it. I do. Like when you get obsessed with something or like it's just been unlocked. My dad always told me to let the lion out because I struggled severely with making myself small when I was younger too. I mean, until I, at a certain age, but he always would say, let the lion out. And now he'll say, that lion never went back in the cage. I shouldn't have let that lion out. Like he'll make that joke because like once you find that power inside of you to say what you need to say, or you get up, like I get obsessed with learning things, like you can't, it's like, I can't stop. Like I have to keep going. And I think we all could learn to lean into that more and more. Because it makes such a huge difference.
Absolutely. Love that.
So tell us a little bit about, so big part of your growth and transformation, Bree just had her 1 year sober celebration. So tell us a little bit about your sober journey, since that's such a big part of this past year and your growth and finding yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. So, about 2 years ago, I really started to question my relationship with alcohol. And so, um, I was drinking a lot more than I really liked, and I was really starting to kind of just see how it was affecting my relationship and my everyday day-to-day things. And for me, it really was, the binge drinking piece. So I would, go out on a Friday night and be like, oh, I'm only going to have 2 beers. And then I would end up having like 4 or 5 beers. And then I would be nursing a hangover through Sunday. And so for me, it really wasn't like this like rock bottom. People were concerned about my drinking, but I truly was concerned about my drinking and where it would go if I didn't really reevaluate my relationship with it. So I started to take breaks here and there. And over a year ago, I decided to just like, hey, this isn't really bringing any positive anything to my life. I want to, go as long without it as I can and see what happens, what transpires. And so, um, for me, I realized that the alcohol was almost a way for me to stay quiet, like stay dim. And so I would get really overwhelmed with all of my ideas and the things that I wanted to do. And so instead of like taking messy action, I would drink alcohol to kind of like suppress those feelings or suppress those desires that I wanted. And so I would use alcohol again to kind of cope, to kind of numb out, to just really not feel like all the things that were going on in my brain. And so this past year has truly been one of my biggest, like I've grown so much just in this past year. And I am convinced that not drinking alcohol was a huge piece of this for me. And it's been a really crazy in a good way journey of me just getting to know myself on a very much deeper level where, you know, if I am having emotions, if I am moving through something, if I do have all these thoughts, I have to use other healthy coping mechanisms instead of just alcohol. So even just before this call, I was working all morning. I was very anxious. And instead of, I probably wouldn't have drank alcohol at 2 p.m. on a working day on a Monday, but I went outside and I sat in the sun and did a breathwork meditation. I never in my past would have done that. And so I found through not drinking that using other healthier coping mechanisms like meditation, like journaling, like even going for a walk in the sunlight, while I don't do them as much as I want to, I'm working my way up there. They have all of these other healthy coping mechanisms have tremendously helped me in all the other areas of my life, my business, my full-time job, my relationship with Garrett, my just everything. And so alcohol never did anything positive. It never was a healthy coping mechanism. And I would just see the ripple side effects of negative things that it brought me. And so it's really truly been so great. And I don't have plans to drink alcohol again in the near future, or in future in general. But yeah, it's been really, really amazing. And I think for a lot of people, I personally know a lot of people who questioning their relationship with alcohol was one of the best things that they decided to do for themselves. And I truly can say that it was one of the best things I did for me.
Yeah, so powerful. And it's kind of perfect. Last week we had a guest on, Ashley, who talked about her 10 years of alcoholism and overcoming that. That comes out this week. We're recording on a Monday. No, don't worry about the timeline, guys, but it comes out before this episode comes out. But I think it's so important because it was huge in her self-development as well. And I saw this amazing reel or some, there's this girl I follow who's a spirituality leader, kind of mentor person. And she posted this thing about alcohol. And it comes from an Arabic word, al-kul, that means body eats spirit. And actually drinking alcohol, if you are spiritual whatsoever, and energy, energetics, all of that plays a role in spirituality, in my mind. It actually keeps you from getting closer to your core, your pure essence. You get farther and farther away from who you actually are, and you're operating at a low frequency. And so it's so funny that you just said like it was dimming your light, because like spiritually it does dim your light. It dims your spirit. It makes it small. It makes it quiet. It suppresses it. And I just think that, God, I always say it's so weird that you say those things. Just because everything always works out the way it's supposed to, but it's so true, because I can also attest to it with my own personal alcohol relationship. When you're working with people, I know you just started your Sober Curious group, but like, what are some things for those who are kind of nervous to say that they're sober curious? Like what problems, like what are some like red flags that could help someone, or, whatever you have to say on that. I think you get what I'm trying to ask here.
Yeah, so I think really if you're questioning your relationship with alcohol, like if you are maybe a big red flag for me was like typing on Google, like, am I an alcoholic? Right. And then the first thing that would pop up would be like a test, or, there's tests or there's articles that say that you have to be drinking this many times a week, or they try to fit you into a box. And so first of all, looking up if you're an alcoholic online is a red flag, and that should be maybe just some thoughts of like, okay, maybe it's time I kind of reevaluate or take a step back and look at how I'm using alcohol. What am I using it for? People say, I drink socially, but are you asking a friend to go have a beer after a stressful day and then you drink? Like, what is really the purpose behind you drinking? Really kind of getting to know that. And for me, a big red flag that I didn't realize until after the fact was I would kind of try to make my relationship with alcohol, like I would validate it. Like, oh, she's drinking that many drinks, then I'm okay. Or the online test said I'm not an alcoholic, so I'm not going to do any further research or try to reevaluate my relationship with alcohol. It's ultimately up to you, right? You can make the decision at any time, whether you have one drink a month or you have 7 drinks in a week. You can make the decision to stop if it's not bringing at any value, positive value into your life. And so I really think if anybody is out there who is on the fence, you can always, in a book that I'm currently reading, it's Not Drinking Today by Amanda White. She's actually an LPC herself. So it's a really cool book to see like her as a therapist, and then how your nervous system and how so many other things play a factor in your relationship with alcohol, why you drink. It's kind of like an iceberg effect. And I won't get into too much detail there, but there's reasons why you're using alcohol, right? It could be like you don't really like your job and you decide to use alcohol to like numb out and cope and kind of avoid all of what's going on underneath the iceberg.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's kind of questioning, I would say to do like a pros and a cons list, or it's called a payoff and cost. You could do like instead of pros and cons, it's a little more negative. You could do like um the costs and the payoffs of drinking and not drinking alcohol. And so just like on a piece of paper, you could it's even great if you have somebody to do it with, because then you can like talk about like what you can like feed off of each other and like give each other ideas, if it's whether that's your partner, or if you have a friend in your life who's maybe also questioning their relationship with alcohol. It's always so beneficial to have somebody else
Yeah.
who is willing to talk about these things with you. Because when I first started, I literally did not know where to go. I did not know who to reach out to. The people that I knew that had gone through AA were like, Bree, you don't have a problem. You cannot come to AA. You don't have a problem. You didn't hit rock bottom. And I'm like, but I know I have a problem. Like something's wrong with my relationship with alcohol. And I had no idea where to go. And so the first thing I did was buy a book. And that just changed my life. Like the person, it was Catherine Gray. She writes the book. It's called, I think I have it written, The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober.
Okay.
She, I resonated with her to a T, to the point of her being like, I would look around and like people said I didn't have a problem, but I knew something was wrong with my relationship with alcohol. And so that would be a great first step for anybody too, is like buying like a sober book or a memoir of somebody who maybe is moving through similar things. There's a ton of things out right now because it is a rising topic. And so, yeah, I mean, and then another couple things, just um, like I kind of mentioned, surrounding yourself with other people who understand what it is you're feeling. Because I didn't have that. And that is why I created my free group chat for other maybe sober, curious women. Even if they aren't completely sober, I have some women in there who are kind of like moderating or just kind of feeling out what it is to like reevaluate their relationship with alcohol, but putting yourself in a space where other people understand what you're moving through is, I think, a catalyst to just moving in a good way, like moving forward with your relationship with alcohol.
Totally. I mean, 100, all of that, 100% spot on. And I will say, as someone who is also, I guess, sober curious, I haven't done a whole year like Bree. But like I said last week, me and Austin this year did 90 days sober, and it was life changing, but also because I was feeling the things Bree was feeling. Like, oh my God, like I'm falling into my family's patterns. Like there's something wrong here. Like, why am I always thinking about drinking on Thursdays? Like I couldn't wait. And I was like, this is not okay to be thinking about a glass of wine that much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, or, that justification piece of like, well, I work really, really hard and I should be able to spend my money how I want. And I want to buy margaritas. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And like you start, as you grow, all of us entrepreneurs, I believe we are always trying to like understand ourselves more, grow more, be the best, highest version of ourselves. And as you bring that self-awareness, right? Because most of us have already mastered level 1, which is that fitness, nutrition piece. That the layers are deeper. And this is kind of one of those next scary layers that we don't know if we want to touch. It's kind of like easier to bounce off of, like, I'll come back to that. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I think that if you are sober curious, even if you just because you want to ride the trend, I highly recommend just trying it out, because those 90 days were very powerful for me for the whole year. I feel like I was able to have more of a choice in alcohol than before. It was just like, this is what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like it was more of
Absolutely.
a choice. So yeah, I'll put Bree's sober curious chat in the show notes, but I think like it's something that all of us, I think, should try. Like I can say that with confidence, because as entrepreneurs, we need clarity, we need confidence, we need grounding, we need understanding. And alcohol is I believe a conditioning that like we're
Mm-hmm.
just subjected to every day. Like I live in Colorado and beer is like part of the culture, it's like, what's your favorite IPA? And or you got to go get that new sour that just came out for the summer. So it's just this conditioning that you've been used to. And I think if you are trying to be like Bree said in the beginning, like dive into your passions and fully accept all of who you are, I think analyzing that relationship is kind of like step 2. Like you did step 1, got the fitness nutrition down. It's time for step 2. And it's really uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. And you could probably agree, Bree. Like it's super uncomfortable to start.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was um Yeah, I remember just like telling everybody like without even trying, but I'm like, I'm not drinking right now because it was just something that I had done my whole life and people were like, why is Bree not drinking, you know? And yeah, it was really tough at the beginning, but it gets so much easier with time. And then when you like when you look at like that version of yourself from like a different lens, it's like, wow, you know, there was a lot of stuff I was pushing down, or there was a lot of conditioning there that I didn't really realize until now. You know, even like I had brunch with a friend yesterday who's also almost over a year without alcohol herself, and we were talking about like advertisements during the holidays and how we don't recognize that they are truly trying to get us to like drink. In the commercials, it's like everyone's surrounded taking shots and like happy, and no one shows like the hungover people the next day, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah. And so when you step away and like you kind of see it from a different lens, it's like, wow, like it's so much different than when you were kind of in that place.
It's amazing. It is really powerful. And if you guys you don't, joining the sober curious group, I'm sure Bree can say like it's not like, okay, you have to be sober to be here. It's you're just trying to figure out what that would look like. Talk to people who were trying to start it out. If you're looking to kind of do what I'm doing, I'm doing it again another 90 days with no like this year was like, okay, I'll stop drinking until my bridal shower. And then, but it wasn't like, oh, hell yes, my bridal shower, let's get drunk. It was like, I actually had no desire to drink when it was my it's so weird once you start that
Hmm.
process. But if you guys are looking for something else too, I also will be posting my January excellence, which is 90 days starting in January, no drinking. And there's some other things on there as well if you just need support. And sometimes having a deadline helps people just to have
Hmm.
direction. Um, so Bree is multi-passionate, sober curious. So with all these like hurdles you've jumped in this past year, can you tell everybody kind of like where you're at now, what you're doing, kind of give us the rundown of Bree in this phase?
Yeah. So I'm currently have a couple one-on-one spots open for anybody just really looking to, like I've kind of explained before, right? Like you have this fire that maybe you're like scared to talk about, or you have this idea or this vision for yourself, and you don't know really like the first couple of steps, right? You're just like, I don't really know myself, and I really want to get to know myself and really get to like really open up myself to the world and like leave this impact that I kind of have a desire for, and you know, open up this power and this magic that I may be suppressing. And so I ultimately, right, like want to help you, one, get to know yourself on a level that maybe you've never even gotten to before. And then also kind of talk to you about the limiting beliefs, or if it is alcohol, or if it is your body image, or your confidence, or your limiting beliefs, or your people pleasing tendencies, or your boundaries, right? Like, let's talk about all these things that are keeping you stuck or keeping you from unleashing this magic and unleashing this power, and then we can get you there, right? Like that is ultimately my path. And I have a framework that I've created that I'm so excited about to share. And so to move people through. And so, um, you know, I do have a couple one-on-one spots open now, and I do have a vision to create some sort of a group program here in 2024. 2024 is my year. I already know it. I'm super excited, but yeah, so I also in my sober group chat just started I will be hosting one group call a month. Again, this is free. This is something that I really just want people to step into and feel comfortable, get to know me, get to know other ladies who are maybe moving through similar journeys or similar, you know, just anything similar that maybe you're moving through. And this month, we're actually talking about limiting beliefs and boundary setting, because a lot of the women in there were like, I really struggle with setting boundaries around alcohol or around this or around that. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. But yeah, I've really kind of 180'd in the last couple of months. And so I'm really, really excited to start, you know, really opening up that closed piece that maybe women are holding on to that are too scared to open up, and getting them to this create this dream life that right they ultimately are longing for and they're really excited about, but they don't know how to open it up.
Make it happen. What would you say to someone who, or to an entrepreneur, like female entrepreneur? Mostly these are female fitness coaches that listen to this podcast, but I think, you know, with more people like you on the podcast, I'm hoping to get more and more different types of entrepreneurs to listen. But as an entrepreneur, as someone who's been exploring entrepreneurship for a while now and has finally gotten to a place where you feel, or it feels correct, right? It's like, yes. What would you say to someone who was kind of like maybe 10 steps behind you, or even your old self, like even 6, 7 months ago? Like, what would be your advice, or what would you say?
So to a female entrepreneur who is already doing the thing, I want you to ask yourself if the thing that you're doing is it? Like, is this it for you? Right? Like, are you, satisfied where you're at, or are you hungry for more? Because if you're hungry for more and you're dimming that, or you're suppressing that, or you're really just pushing that down because you're like, I'm good, my business is good, there's still fire or a light or a power and that magic inside of you that you do need to release out into the world. And so if that looks like pivoting for you, but you don't know how to do it, or you're scared, or you're like, no, like, would this sell? Is this going to work? I suggest that you kind of look deeper into that and see where that could possibly lead you, because staying small and like staying in your avenue is great for a lot of people. But I think there's a lot of people who want that, or who are longing for more, or that bigger step, or that next step for themselves, and they just are too scared to like take that next step.
Yeah. Oh my God, Bree, I'm so proud of you.
Thank
You
you.
are like owning it. I'm so proud of you. Like, you're making me smile so much. It's so, it's really nice to see you on this side. Usually like in our sessions, like, I'm the one like directing and kind of like whatever questions you have, and you just like coming in on this podcast. So like, oh, it feels so like, I am so excited. Bree's gonna be like famous one day, guys. So just like look out, because she's just got that sparkle, and I'm sure you feel it right now listening to this episode. But like, because there's something here, there's something really big here, and you're just growing it and growing it. And I'm just so proud of you, because from seeing you when you first started to now is just like a completely different human being who is just like owning it. So Bree also has so much excitement coming up. Like, yeah, 2024 is her year. She's getting married next year. She's starting this. She's got all these like beautiful ideas in the works. Obviously with Bree, they'll always be coming in the ideas. So keep up, best to keep up, stay on her page and keep up with all the ideas. Like I said, I'll have the links for your Sober Curious group, your Instagram. Is there any other link that you would like people to have, or have
I can give you my application link. It's just a short application with just some basic information, but yeah, I can give you that as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for the one-on-one spots. If you love this episode, please share with your other sister friends. And if you loved listening to Bree, make sure you give her some love. Go thank her for being on the podcast. Just tell her how amazing she is. And thank you so much, Bree, for coming on today. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Awesome. All right, guys, y'all have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.
Bye.